Hello, today is February 5th, 2024. I'm Ruth Brunner, the interviewer of Brian Martin, and he'll give us his full name and place of birth. And we're here at Clearview Library, and I hope to find out more about his role as the fire chief of Windsor during the 2008 tornado and other experiences that he's had that are relevant to Windsor. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you.
So, your name and...
Okay, my name is Brian Martens, and I grew up in Fort Collins as a little boy. We're third generation from the Fort Collins area. My grandfather homesteaded up by Terry Lake in 1906 and had all the cherry orchards. My mother was a teacher. She taught in the Timna schools when they were a one-room schoolhouse. So we've been in the area a long time. When I was approximately 9 years old, we moved with my mom up to Leadville. She was a teacher up there, and I grew up in Leadville, Colorado, in the mountains. Enjoyed it quite a bit, and then came to school at Colorado State University. Met my wife there and worked for Excel Energy. I was a teacher initially out of school in Estes Park, and then worked for Excel Energy for 23 years. During that time, I was a volunteer in Loveland, a volunteer firefighter. I enjoyed it very much and decided to make it a career, and I was offered a job in Windsor as the training officer in 2001, and accepted that. Jerry Ward was the chief at the time, and the rest, after the fire service, I was done in 2010. I was an instructor at Ames College, the lead instructor for the degree program and the academies, so I finished my career at Ames College. Teaching. My wife and I spend half our time in Windsor. The other half we go up, we have a cabin up in Glen Haven in the retreat. We have 5 acres up there, and we hike in Rocky Mountain National Park every week. We enjoy that, keeps us out of trouble. 4 grandkids, two kids. They're close in the area as far as in Louisville and Denver, so we have great life.
Yeah. So when you came to the fire department, how many years was that before or after we became not a volunteer fire department? When was our regular, as we know it today, chiefs and lieutenants and all that set up?
In Windsor?
In Windsor, yes.
Yes. Was kind of unique about the experience with Windsor. I was a volunteer chief in Loveland. And back in Loveland in the 80s and 90s, the career firefighters did not leave the engine. The volunteers fought the fires and did the extrications, those type of things. So we had a lot of experience. I enjoyed it so much and felt really good about myself when I was doing it that I decided I'd like to do it for a career. Jerry Ward was offered the job as the fire chief in, I believe, the year 2000. And he asked me to come over and be the training captain and start a training program. We were hiring career firefighters at that time to turn into a combination fire department in Windsor, and that was in 2001. We built the main station downtown, rebuilt it, and then subsequent to that, while I was fire chief, there were 2 additional stations that we're doing in Severance and then out west on Highway 392.
Wow. Did any of the firemen talk about the old way it was with the warning system that came?
Yeah, the siren system, I remember that very well. And Windsor had grown so much that the siren system was great for the core downtown area, but we had so many outlying areas that I believe it was shut down before I was the fire chief, and I think it was shut down before Jerry was the chief. But Windsor had a rich tradition and history. Their volunteers did a great job of taking care of this community, the Stark families. I can go on to all the different families that contributed to the Windsor community and how great they were.
Yeah. So then, what was it like when you were young? Was there anything that triggered you wanting to become a fireman or a teacher first, like your mom?
Teacher first. I don't know. I'm not, as a child, I don't think I looked at the fire department. I think when I really decided I wanted to do that was when I was a volunteer with Loveland. I was a volunteer for Loveland for 20 years. And in that time, I had a really good job at Excel in marketing and engineering, but I felt really good about myself when I went out on calls. and felt that I was making a difference. It didn't always turn out the way we wanted it to, but I felt really good about what I was doing. And when I was offered the position, it's a career position, I came home one day and told my wife that we were going to be moving to Windsor and I wanted to change. And she's always been very supportive. So we made the move and that was it. So.
That's it. Well, we were fortunate to have you.
Well, thank you.
I know that you mentored some of the middle school students that came through the work-study program. The wards did and that, maybe not you?
No, we did have some programs when I was a training officer here for high school students.
Okay. They took it over.
And they still have that program, and Ames actually sponsored that. But yeah, we're trying to get people interested in the fire service, especially females. We found that being a female in the fire service really has its advantages. I believe they do great patient care and they make good firefighters. And so one of our priorities was trying to get females, young girls, interested because it was such a dominated male profession before. And so I think the fire service has moved a long way towards that, especially the last 10, 15 years.
Okay. So as the trainee person, was there things that you specifically trained for that helped you with the 2008 tornado, or was that something that came as a surprise?
Yeah, part of that I'd have to give credit certainly to Jerry Ward. He had the foresight when he built the new fire station downtown. Downstairs, we had these modules constructed, and those modules, there were approximately 15 of them. And what I mean by module, they were a whole separate working unit, and one was labeled for EMS, which is medical services, one for the police department, one for fire, one for public works, and then all the people that it takes when you have a natural disaster. Those modules are rolled out. They've all got their own computer systems, and we're able to function as a command center down in the basement. So that was all set up, and then when I was a fire chief, we had practiced with Weld County. Now certainly, I'll be honest with you, we didn't practice for a tornado. We practiced for floods because of the Poudre River. We practiced for snowstorms, and then maybe extended power outages, those type of things. But the scenario was different, but the logic towards the disaster is the same. And really what it is you have to take, when you have a large scale event, you just have to break it down into manageable pieces and assign people to those individual areas, geographic areas or pieces, and that's how you get the job done. Otherwise it becomes overwhelming, especially the tornado. It was a mile wide. It had really ripped into the community. So, I don't know if you want me to talk about the tornado.
Sure, that's what they were.
The tornado was a unique event, of course, happening at 11:05 in the morning in May, coming the wrong direction. And when I say wrong direction, tornadoes in Colorado always pretty much go northeast, and they usually happen late afternoon or evening. This one was, of course, 11 in the morning and came from the southeast, coming northwest. It did fool the National Weather Service. It was a wedge cloud. It had 7 different tornado funnels within it. And I did get a warning at the fire station that morning that severe hail was coming. And I called the superintendent of schools and told her to get all the kids in. It was the last day of school, that we had a severe thunderstorm coming with baseball-sized hail. And so she was able to get the kids in. Thankfully, it was the last day of school. There were kids out in the park, and she did a wonderful job of getting all the kids in. So we didn't get any warning there was going to be a tornado. The first warning I got when it hit State Farm, I got a call from one of our volunteers. Said that
State Farm at
the State Farm Greeleyville, that it was coming towards our direction. So I sent all the crews downstairs. I ran upstairs to get a radio because I couldn't get through on the normal radios. They were crashing because the storm was hitting and all the channels were busy. I tried to get a hold of the Air Life radio, which is a different frequency. And the tornado hit right over the station. Actually, I tried to get out of the bays because I'd gone into the truck bay and it sucked the door shut and I couldn't get out. So I slid underneath the engine and just waited for the tornado to go back over the top of us. And then we started our work. That work included, at the very beginning, trying to get things organized. We had, I called for fire departments to come all in northern Colorado. I called for fire departments to respond to Windsor all the way from Longmont, of course, Poudre, Fort Collins, Loveland, any fire department in northern Colorado to come to the station to start dispersing the people, the firefighters that we needed to get the job done. I want to give a lot of credit. First, when I said superintendent of schools, it was Karen Trussler. I forgot to say Karen's name, I'm sorry. Terry Walker did more. He had prepared for this, a major event. And
he was a town employee.
He was a public works director. And
yes.
Terry took this very seriously. And what Terry had done prior to the tornado, which was so critical to us, he had set everything up within the computer system, having contractors lined up, all types of things done and ready. So if we did have a disaster, he would be able to call, when I say contractors, people with loaders, people that can clear debris, those type of things. They were already under contract. He had that all set up prior to the event. So a lot of credit needs to go to Terry, and I'm sorry that he's passed. He did a great thing for this community. After the tornado came over the top of us, of course, we got our local crews out first and into the areas. I immediately called for Channel 4 chopper to come and sit down on the football field. What I wanted to do was get up in that helicopter and determine the path of the tornado. So Channel 4 helicopter landed. I got in the seat next to the pilot. I said, take me up. I want to go from State Farm and I want to go northwest all the way up towards Fort Collins. And what that gave me was a visual view of the path of the tornado, which, as you know, was very clear. Tornadoes are very distinct when you look down of what the damage is. Then what I was able to do once we landed, I went back downstairs, we laid out our map, the entire Windsor-Severance Fire District, and broke it up into workable divisions, geographic divisions, that we could assign the firefighters as they came in from different departments to take this geographical area and do search and rescue, all the things that fire departments do to make things work. And then we established our command center downstairs at the fire station. So the guys and gals did an incredible job. We had done our search and rescue within the first 10 hours, our primary search and rescue. We had a lot of gas leaks down around Governor's Farm. There was pressure on me, to be honest with you, to let people back in, and I was the incident commander. I had the responsibility at that point to say no until the area is safe. Once you have a disaster, the fire chief becomes the incident commander of the scene. And once we got the things established, then we were able to let people back in. The crews did such a great job. FEMA used us for their model, national model, for the first 24 hours of response. John Michaels, the police chief, and Terry and I were able to go to the governor's conferences and talk about the tornado and how we reacted. John did a wonderful job with Michaels, the police chief, with the National Guard and all the police departments, coordinating all that efforts to keep the area secure. And Windsor's Windsor, and I get a little emotional about it, but I don't feel too sorry for themselves in Windsor. And immediately people were coming in and cleaning up debris. People were doing everything they needed to do to get their lives back to normal. I was just astounded at the spirit, and I think it's all those old Russian German farmers, a lot of them. They just, hey, we just need to put things back. Churches like Res came down. They had 300 volunteers. They were raking glass out of the yards and putting things away. It was just, it was really a neat thing to watch. I think my other big memory that I remember was going up above Water Valley, up on the hill, and looking down on the town. And I think as a fire chief, you feel responsible for the community, and I always did. And we found we only had one fatality, and that was great. And I just was so overwhelmed. I don't think I'd slept for 3 or 4 days. And so being at the station, and maybe my emotions got to me, and they do a little bit, but just looking at the destruction in the community, but knowing that we were going to be okay. So I really was so proud within 1 year when we had everything rebuilt in the community. And it was quite an experience, and something that a lot of fire chiefs don't get the opportunity. When I say opportunity, that's a terrible opportunity to have, but it was something that I think the crews and everybody came through. We all banded together. Terry Walker, the Public Works Director, I keep mentioning him, and John and I became very close after that. We were close before. We were good friends, but we worked well together and got the job done. As well as the city council, all the people that were leaders in Windsor. City council, I saw them on the back of pickup trucks, delivering water and helping people, and just the whole leadership, I think, really stepped forward in Windsor that day, and the weeks following, those type of things.
So when you spoke of the death, fatality, was
Yes.
up at the
Up at the State Farm complex. I believe he was in an RV and had
missile site. Yeah,
got into an RV, and I think it got rolled and tumbled, and that he ended up passing
Did we
away.
have any injuries in Windsor?
We had people with glass injuries, those type of things, but no real serious injuries. We were astounded by the magnitude of the quake, the tornado. That one of the funnels, of the 7 funnels, the one that really hit Governor's Farm up parallel with Water Valley, moved up through town, was an F3, which is 165 miles an hour. It was enough to turn the railroad cars over. It was enough to, the kids in the preschool and the teachers that got all the kids, was just, I think the big guy upstairs was kind of looking down and taking care of us in that community that day. Because we could have had a lot of people hurt. So
even the pathway that it went,
Yes.
and being the last day of school, I know there was kids at the park, Eastman Park. And
they were outside, and Karen was getting them in with buses. And I'm trying to remember when the Weather Service called me. I think I called her, and she had about an hour's notice. But we had nothing about a tornado. They just said baseball size hail, so I called her and said, Karen, we got to get the kids in, and you need to get them away from the windows, get them in the hallways, because it's coming. They said it's imminent, and it's going to be smashing glass. So my main concern at that point was, for her making sure to get the kids in, not knowing that we were going to get hit.
I know, I was in the pit, the old gym in the old part of the high school, and the kids from the 7th graders from Eastman Park came in, and that's where they brought them in. And one kid had a bump, a goose egg on his forehead from the hailstone that he looked up at, and he wanted ice, and I said, well, we can't really go get that. And his friend pulls a hail ball out of his pocket, and put it on his friend's head. So that was... before that, it wasn't really real to me, because I kept telling the kids, we don't get tornadoes this close to the mountains.
It's such an aberration, the time of day, the month, the direction.
How far west did it go? How far northwest before
it went northwest all the way up to Wellington.
And did it cause damage?
Yes, it started to taper off as it went up through there, but it went all the way up to Wellington.
Yeah.
So,
and missed a lot of the parks and places where kids were in school buildings, none of those were really damaged.
Yeah, it kind of went east, of course, over the cemetery in that direction, and through up through the main park.
Took out a lot of trees at Main Park and the cemetery. I know we helped.
We had a lot of replanting done, and of course, I think Governor's Farm and that whole area in there that was adjacent to 257 is the ones that really got, about 232 homes were destroyed. So, completely destroyed.
So you didn't retire, you stayed another 2 years before you retired. Was there other events as a fire chief that are historically noteworthy, or just something that left an impression on you?
Certainly I've been doing it for 35 years total, and certainly there are events that you come across, whether that's serious structure fires that we've had during my career, major car accidents, those type of things. But I don't want to say that's normal, Ruth, but it goes with the territory when you've been in it for a long time. When you have Interstate 25 is part of your district, major highways, and you have commercial and industrial areas that can catch on fire. Those type of things. We had some major fires, I know, in Loveland that were large, Bertha, that we helped out. But that was probably the most significant event for Windsor that we had, other than having structure fires and those type of things.
Did you ever get called to forest fire, and the fire that was above Horsetooth, or that one?
Not in Windsor, but in Loveland we did.
Okay.
When I was in Loveland, we did, and then I also volunteered for Glen Haven, which is a little department up where our cabin is, and we of course had the Cameron Peak fire, the flood of 2013. Had some real events up in the canyon up there. But Loveland had wildland response. We would go up with wildland trucks and fight fires and do structure protection for the homes all that are up in the foothills up there. Spent many, many hours above Loveland fighting fires up there.
Well, is there anything that, what do you remember about Windsor when you moved here and the changes you've seen and the...
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's an important
It was about
perspective.
8,500 people, I think. Does that sound right, Ruth? About 2,000?
Yeah.
And you knew it probably when it was 3,000 or 4,000, maybe close to that.
Yeah.
And I just have watched the phenomenal growth. It is amazing to me how much it's grown. It's changed. I think the old guard of Windsor, what I call the old guard, that kind of knew everything and you just knew the people. And when I go to the grocery store anymore, I very seldom see people that I know. I used to know everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's changed. And that's because I think we're at 41,000 now in Windsor, yes. Close to that. Mm-hmm. So I can see why people want to live here. It's a great place.
It is. So how did the newspaper, we had the Windsor Beacon when you were here, did they cover?
Yes, and the Greeley Tribune. They were competing newspapers. They were right next to each other, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And they were doing stories downtown, right on Main Street. So we had 2 newspapers at the time to cover the stories. So got good coverage. The governor came, of course, and declared it a natural disaster. So spent some time with the governor. And
So we can speak about this briefly, but you said that your son was part of the Marshall Fire in Louisville.
Yeah, it's ironic in the fact that my fire has been our nemesis in our family, and I'll tell you that my wife's grandmother's home burned, and they barely got her out. She almost died in a fire. My sister. Was that
in Fort Collins?
This was over in Delta.
Okay.
My sister got burned out of her house in California. I'm trying to remember the large fire they had up there, the Paradise Fire.
Yes.
She lost her home in the Paradise Fire. My son lost his home in the Marshall Fire. He lives in Louisville. So our family, it's always kind of been my nemesis, is fire.
Do you like to live next to forest or green belts, or what's the common factor?
I don't know if there is a common factor. Certainly our cabin, part of our land burned at the Cameron Peak fire. We were able to stop it. And we lost a little bit of our land, of our 5 acres burned in 2020 at the Cameron Peak fire. So I don't know what it is, but it seems to follow our family.
So growing up in Leadville, what was that like? I know that's not Windsor, but it's a good comparison.
It is. I moved up there when I was 9 and went to school up there. Leadville at that time was very healthy. When I say that, there's a mine called Climax, where they mine molybdenum. You don't even know how to say that. They call it moly. Mm-hmm. There were 3,000 miners up there, so Leadville had a really good tax base. Growing up in the late 60s and early 70s up there when Climax was open, the schools, we had the nicest equipment, the nicest things. It was rugged. It's a mining town. The people up there are very much like Windsor. They stick together. They care about each other. And it was a good place to grow up. I learned a huge work ethic up there. Everybody works really hard up in Leadville. The miners do. They work hard. And I think it set me for my life. My mom being single with my brothers and sisters and not having my dad, I learned a really good work ethic. I worked in the mine when I got out of high school. I graduated early because I wanted to go to school at CSU. I played in sports, but I wanted to be at CSU. And so I worked underground and worked in the mines until school started, and I worked there in the summers too. So I really appreciate everything they do up there. So it's turned into more of a tourist town now. Climax shut down. It's open again, but at a very small scale.
Mm-hmm.
But
And how about your grandfather or great-grandfather? Grandfather
Yeah, came
homesteaded?
over in Ellis Island. We were able to go to Ellis Island last year and see where he came in 1906. It showed him signing in with his brother. They went to Fort Collins. He worked with the Lindemeyers, which is, if anybody's heard of Lindemeyer area, it's a lake there. And then he bought land up by Terry Lake, which is the north part of Fort Collins. He had 1,100 cherry trees. And he watered those cherry trees and had that land and sold cherries. And then my mom, who was born in Fort Collins, as I said, went to school at CSU, and then she taught in Timnath when it was just a one-room schoolhouse, when Timnath was really small.
Did you ever see the cherry trees? Did they last?
They didn't. By the time I got there in the 60s, it became a lot of homes. Now it's the Fort Collins Country Club.
Yeah.
That whole area, there's beautiful homes.
Beautiful homes.
Are all around Terry Lake now.
Yes.
But my mother would tell me stories about hand watering those cherry trees when she was a girl. So, yeah.
Well, good. Well, before we close, you've been a wonderful asset to Windsor, and
Well,
you
thank
still
you.
are,
That's
just
nice.
with your care and spirit for us. Is there any advice or life lessons that you would pass on to those who are watching this?
Well, I was to tell my firefighters, after I got done with the fire service, I taught at Ames College and the new campus, which is over here on Highway 17, the new EMS fire campus. We broke that in when I said I was the lead instructor there and taught the academies. I'd always tell the firefighters what was most important thing that they needed to know, and I think they knew this, certainly to have integrity, that you're there to do a job. The fire stations, all the fire things belong to the community, so be proud of that. Make sure that you keep it the way it should be. And I think the most important attribute of firefighter that we would talk about in class is empathy. I believe if I could tell the firefighters that we hired, we'd always hire those that we knew cared about other people. Because it can be a job where there's notoriety and things, and there's an adrenaline rush. I think a lot of firefighters do it. But if they have a true sympathy, a sense of empathy, I think they're better. Because a lot of our stuff is patient care and caring about people. And I'm not talking about just the young people. I'm talking about elderly people that need care of, caring for them. And I think those make the greatest firefighters. So,
You led by example.
Well, thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
am most honored to interview you today.
Well, that was very nice to say, and I care very much about it still gets me when I talk about it. I care very much about this community and the people in it, and I just so proud of them. I mean, I just watch disasters and people kind of sit down and give up, but I couldn't believe it. People are just amazing.
In Windsor.
So, yeah, in Windsor, that's an amazing community.
Well, I hope the new people in town watch this and realize what a gift
Well, thank
they
you
have.
for inviting me. That was very nice of you
Yes.
to do, Ruth.
Okay.
So.